sky, the 8th Air Force flew uncontested. We were the true masters of the air.
For fans watching Masters of the Air, it's worth noting that Band of Brothers occurs chronologically between episodes 8 and 9 of the show. Let's explore this further right here on ScreenRant. Masters of the Air, Band of Brothers, and the Pacific are all World War II miniseries created by Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, and Gary Goetzman. Though released 9 and 14 years apart, these series overlap in countless ways, including their timelines. All three Band of Brothers shows take place during World War II, although the series depicts different branches of the US military and sometimes different settings. For example, Band of Brothers follows the Easy Company of the 101st Airborne Division as they travel across France and into Germany, while the Pacific centers on 3 US Marines in the Pacific Theater. In this way, the shows are connected by time, but separated by geography. However, Band of Brothers and Masters of the Air may be closer than previously thought. The first moment of overlap between Band of Brothers and Masters of the Air is D-Day. On June 6, 1944, American forces invaded the beaches of Normandy, France, beginning their march into German territory, which ultimately ended World War II. While D-Day occurs in Band of Brothers Episode 2 and is Easy Company's very first piece of action, D-Day is a blip within Masters of the Air Episode 8, told as a brief story rather than an actual event. Notably, after D-Day, the rest of Band of Brothers unfolds while Masters of the Air comes to its conclusion. This means Masters of the Air Episodes 8 and 9 hold the entire timeline of Band of Brothers' 10 episodes. There were 2 times when Easy Company and the 100th Bomb Group were at the same place at the same time. The first was in the spring of 1943. Though Easy Company spent a year training at Camp Toccoa in Georgia, their second year was spent in Aldbourne, England in September 1943. They remained there until D-Day. At that same time, in the fall of 1943, the 100th were a few months into their service at Thorpe Abbotts in England. In particular, they were 1 month away from Black Week, where hundreds of men were killed or captured in action. While the 100th Bomb Group was never in the same area as the men portrayed in the Pacific, their timelines also converge in certain places. The Pacific begins even earlier than Masters of the Air did, starting in December 1941, directly after the Pearl Harbor attacks. The first piece of war that occurs in the series is the Guadalcanal Campaign, which took place in August 1942, almost a full year before Masters of the Air. The series also lasts longer, ending in September 1945 rather than May due to Japan's extended fight in World War II. Ultimately, the Pacific and Masters of the Air's timelines first overlapped during the Pacific Episode 4 and Masters of the Air Episode 1. While Major Buck Clevin lands at Thorpe Abbotts to begin his service with the 100th in spring 1943, the Guadalcanal Campaign is ending, and Robert Leckie is being sent to fight in the Battle of Cape Gloucester. The timelines continue to overlap until Masters of the Air ends in May 1945, and the Pacific continues into the fall of 1945. And that's it for this episode. Thank you for joining ScreenRant.